I've already taken you on a tour of the main floor of the Parent Trap home. Today, we're going upstairs. Hi, I'm Maureen Coates. Welcome to Behind the Scenes, where we get up close and personal with all your favorite TV and movie homes. On today's episode, we're going to finish exploring the Parent Trap home. Let's get started. So what all do we have left to explore on the upstairs level? Let's begin with what must have been a guest bedroom. We see Vicky, played by Joanna Barnes, going upstairs and then immediately turning to the right. She appears to be going up there to freshen up a little, and then later returns from that same room. So before we venture inside an interior we never actually got to see in the film, let's first examine the context on the exterior that helps to better define that room for us. We see two rather small windows fairly close together on the front of the home. Since there are no other observable windows on the other sides of the room, we know that this room has only these two windows. There is also a fireplace that connects on the corner of the room. It appears that the main portion of this fireplace would actually be on the first floor, but interestingly, it doesn't appear in the room below, the dining room. Its actual placement would be right here in a small space just outside of the dining room, an area we're never shown in the film. We notice in the film that when Maggie arrives on the scene, played by Maureen O'Hara, she already seems to know her way around the house in everything, from the layout of the rooms even down to where the dishes are kept. It would be a reasonable assumption that she had perhaps lived in this house prior to the divorce from Mitch. So I did a little more detective work. In the original book that The Parent Trap was adapted from, we discover additional information that was not revealed in the movie, which seems to confirm these suspicions. In the book, after the twin switching secret is revealed and the Maggie-based character returns to the home for the first time since the divorce, the maid offers to give her directions, but she says, "I know it, thank you." So with that in mind, I'm going to also assume that she had a little hand in decorating that home as well. Mitch is a rancher, and while the decor definitely has been stamped with the rancher's touch, Maggie's refined Boston influence is also equally unmistakable. So I decided to let Maggie have a little fun in the guest bedroom, hence the feminine touches. There are also two small windows in the same areas we observed them on the outside. The room's divided into two spaces, the bedroom area and the bathroom, which also has a closet. You'll notice the fireplace in the corner where we previously pointed out the chimney on the exterior of the home. Now let's head on down to one of the mystery rooms that I promised to show you when we toured the main floor. If you'll remember the tour in part 1, as we approached the front of the home, off to the right, we saw a small room or building separate from the rest of the house. I believe this was Hecky's quarters, who you'll remember was the ranch hand. And here's my reasoning. When Mitch picks up who he believes to be Susan from the airport and comes back to the house, he looks towards that room and announces to Hecky that she has arrived. Hecky then comes running around from this corner. It would make sense that he would have a room on the exterior of the home rather than the interior, so as to be near the fields and the cattle. We see a small window here and a passageway to the other side of this room. This means the door into the quarters and any other windows would need to be along these two walls. I placed the entrance to Hecky's room around the corner and added a little porch for him to relax on after a hard day of work. The square footage of this building is fairly small, approximately 385 square feet. As we enter, you'll see a small kitchen on the left with a built-in booth for dining and a large window looking out into the pastures beyond. On the other side of the room is a living area with a fireplace. Behind that bookcase wall is Hecky's private area with a bed. Also, you'll see the window that we saw on the exterior earlier. And he has a built-in dresser. And of course, he has his own private bathroom in his quarters. By the way, we're going to be having a little fun giveaway contest for one of the pieces of artwork that you see on the walls in Hecky's place. It'll be the one of your choosing if you win. Details will be coming soon. The home looks so real that people just assume it was an actual home. And that's why we need to take our hats off for all of the people involved with this beautiful set design. But in reality, the Monterey scenes were actually filmed in various California locations, including a ranch in Carmel. The scenes at the Monterey house were shot at the studio's Golden Oak Ranch, where Mitch's ranch was built. I know, I wanted it to be real too. Okay, we've now seen Mystery Room number 1, but I also promised to show you the interior of this room from the show. I've always loved this room that we see in the courtyard with its own little stoop. I was more than a little curious to imagine what the interior might look like. I believe this may have been Verbina's little casita. There was evidence that she lived on the premises simply by the fact that she was ever present and that she knew both Mitch and Susan really well. And we never seemed to see a car outside for her either. The clues we gather from the exterior shots tell us there are no windows on either of these two sides. The entrance is quite narrow, possibly only 9 to 10 feet wide. So with the rest of the dimensions we know, it would leave about 370 square feet for Verbina's little home. Let's step inside to see what we have. I wanted to give Verbina a cozy and homey space, but with room to have friends over for a chat or a bite to eat. As we enter, we first see a large armoire on the right, which serves as her closet. Then the living room area with enough seating for friends. On the other side of the breeze block is a small kitchen with an eating area, with a large window with a view. And then the bed and bathroom. And now, the last mystery room, before we go back upstairs to see Susan's and Mitch's rooms. The window on the exterior has a large stained glass feature that matches the one seen in the living room, and that we will also shortly see coming up in the master bathroom. I always thought it resembled a quaint little chapel, and it does, but I actually believe it was meant to be an architectural reference to a feature that existed in some old Spanish colonial homes, rather than actually functioning as a chapel. Here's my reasoning. Although it's true that Spanish colonial homes would sometimes have their own private chapel on the grounds, if it was indeed an actual chapel, would there have ever been a more appropriate occasion to use it than for the wedding of Maggie and Mitch? But they instead opted for outdoor nuptials, so Because of the abundance of fresh plants, flowers, and grass we see in the courtyard area, I chose instead to make it their potting shed and storage area. Let's have a look. Now it's time to visit a room we all remember well, Susan's room. And we'll approach it the same way young Sharon did when she first arrived, of course posing as Susan. Remember that Verbena leads her there along an open corridor above the courtyard. As a child, I was mesmerized by this scene and instantly fell in love with the room as well as the path that led to it. In general, the layout of the home makes sense with what we were shown in the movie. But up here, things get a little messed up. As we see Sharon walking to her room, she passes by these windows. They appear to be the same ones that we see outside in the hallway across from both Susan's room and Mitch's. And yet, when Sharon arrives at the end of the walkway, she's entering her room from this side, rather than backtracking with those windows in the background and coming from the other direction. Because we don't see similar windows here, to have this work, we would need to have the rooms going in this direction around the corner. Now, on to Susan's room. There are so many interesting things in this room, but let's start first with the items that tell us more about Susan herself. There's a picture of 60s teen heartthrob Ricky Nelson on her desk, some fun prints of cats, and a lot of trophies and awards. In particular, we notice a swimming trophy, a horse trophy, what looks like a Girl Scout sash full of badges she's earned, a ukulele, and an archery set. And then there's that vintage record player with built-in speakers on the front that detach. We also see it again later in the courtyard stage scene where they perform Let's Get Together. And of course, a picture of her dad Mitch on her dresser. All of these things help to round out her character for us, tell us more about the real her, the girl who inhabits that room. And now let's jump right into the design of the room. What teenage girl wouldn't want this room? And just think, this film is 60 years old. In part 1, I referred to the 3 foundational principles of cinematic design and the 8 pillars of design that spring from those principles. All of which, by the way, are employed in stunning fashion in the Parent Trap home. Let's highlight a few of them found in Susan's room. You'll notice that we see the principle of color beyond implemented in these shots. I go over this principle in great detail in episode 1 of Cinematically Inspired Design found here. Basically, it's using the color you can see in another room as part of the design scheme of the room you're currently standing in. So for example, notice in this image where we see the bathroom door open, we see the towels in the background exposing a deep saturated yellow, and the tiles with the blue and white pattern mimicked in the lacy white iron headboard up against the dark blue stucco walls. Coincidence? With these spectacular set designers, I don't think so. It draws your eye past the room and ties it in. It makes the room beyond the bathroom, when the door is open, become part of the overall design scheme of Susan's room. In essence, it visually extends the design of her room. Now, what about the furnishings? I love this desk. The body of it is painted cream and trimmed out in gold. And with no legs, it creates the illusion that it's being held up by the chains. And I love that gold metal button detailing on the large mirror. Attention to detail always pays off. The same is true in your home. The bed is the centerpiece of this room. I love that we have a room here with thick stucco walls and heavy wooden lintels over the doors, and yet they introduce an element of femininity as well. And the bed is the perfect example of that. I love the intricacy of the detailed headboard. Notice that they chose one with a piece in the center that allowed for an easier split screen when Hayley was playing both Susan and Sherwin at the same time. Another wonderful feminine detail is the shell cove French doors. So beautiful. Susan has a large closet with double doors that open up into a dressing area with a chair and a dresser. For just a brief moment, we catch a glance of some items on the missing fourth wall. On that wall, we see a couple chairs, a side table, and a TV. We don't get to see the wall itself because the cameras were there, but due to the wonders of modern technology, you will see it in my tour of the room coming up. Now, let's take a tour of this room with ceilings and all four walls, just as if it were a real home. Now I want to have a little fun here. I want to show you what a couple of the cinematic design principles do for this room by simply taking them away. In one of my cinematically inspired design episodes, we discussed the principle of scale and the effect it has on a room and what it adds to the design. And in another episode, we learn about architectural elements and how the cinema uses them, all of which you can use in your own home to achieve similar effects. So now, just for fun today, I'm going to take Susan's room, scale it back, and remove some of the interesting architectural features. I think you'll easily see for yourself what effect this has on the room. Gone are those incredible French doors with the architectural shell element above, and I replaced them with more typical windows, which reduces the scale as well. Then I took away the double doors on her entrance and on her closet and replaced them with one single door in each place and removed the lintels overhead. Look at the difference those changes made to this room. These are the kind of principles I teach on my cinematically inspired design episodes, which can be found on the same channel. The cinema knows what they're doing. They use design to create a mood and help tell the story of the people who live there. You can learn how to do the very same thing in your home. There's a reason you fall in love with movie homes. Here is where you'll find out why. Here's an overhead view of the upstairs to help orient us. We have Susan's room on one end, followed by the bathroom in between, that then connects to the master bedroom dressing area and then the master bedroom itself. Inside the bathroom, we see mint green walls, beautiful tiles, another stained glass piece, a black marble floor, interestingly detailed gold-colored faucets, a patterned screened-off area that helps obscure the toilet, a sunken tub, and an almost freestanding shower, and then a free-form countertop for the sinks, similar to the countertop we saw on the kitchen island. We never get to experience this fourth wall in the movie, but you, as my special guests, will get to see it on the tour. I chose to put a makeup vanity there. I'm quite certain Maggie would have had one. Now let's take a tour of the bathroom. In the master dressing area, we see a picture of Susan on his dresser, several horse paintings, a closet, and overhead beams. One of the more interesting features of this room is that there are actually 2 entrances into the bathroom, both deeply recessed and one of them covered in wood paneling. On the opposite wall, we see the entrance into what must be the master bedroom. Let's now take a quick tour around this room. Once again, I've included the 4th wall and corner we never got to see, adding a window and a second closet for Maggie. And now we finally enter the master bedroom. Remember, Maggie and Mitch most likely lived in this home with the baby girls before the divorce. This would have been their room back then, so instead of designing it just for Mitch, I tried to make sure it was fitting for both of their personalities. I left the walls stucco and the floors red clay tile, as was seen in most of the rest of the rooms of this house. I gave them a set of French doors similar to Susan's, but without the shell element above. A pair of window seats flank either side of the bed, made of the same wood paneling found in the adjacent dressing room. There is blue trim on and around the doors to keep it from being too neutral, too beige. I gave Maggie a little desk area with furniture similar to what she had in her Boston home. The black shelves house books and a leather sofa with exaggerated saddle stitching, bringing to mind their love of horses. The fireplace has a touch of a Spanish colonial feel, as does the balcony with its wrought iron railing. Below the sconces, the bottom panels pull out to reveal nightstands, where they can keep their items out of sight during the day and easily accessible at night. I threw in a few pieces of art with some metaphorical attributes. Let me explain. The first one, by Maggie's desk, is a painting of a fox. When Maggie re-enters Mitch's life and discovers he has a very young fiancée, she's wise as to what might really be going on and plays a few games to help make things end up in her favor. This painting is entitled Fox Hunt. The fox reminds me of Maggie with her beautiful red hair. A wise fox, not one who's being hunted, but turning the tables on the hunter. The second painting over the bed completes this story. It's entitled Out for a Scamper. It shows a beautiful woman with red hair and a young blonde girl by her side. The woman is in heavy pursuit and fully in charge. Together they're out for a scamper, Maggie and her daughter having a little fun. Metaphor often plays heavily in the set design on a film. It sets a mood and helps tell the story of the people who live there. You can do the same thing in your home. You can create the mood you want there and use art and design to help tell the story of your family. I have a cinematically inspired design episode dedicated to this principle, episode 6, which you'll find here. Now we're going to walk through all 4 of these rooms to really give you a feel for the layout. One thing that surprised me as I modeled the home was that because of how the doors line up, we can get a straight shot through from Susan's room all the way to the master bedroom. We never got to see that view on the show. As promised in part 1, here are some of the stats on the home. And if you wanted to actually build this home, there are a few things that would help make it more livable. For instance, you may have noticed all of the large open passageways. You would need to be able to close them off. After all, not everybody can live in a completely open air environment, open to dirt, bugs, rain, and without any way to keep the air conditioning inside the home. You would need some kind of closure here to keep the dining and living rooms from the elements. I actually noticed there's a sliding door hidden in this wall, but of course you would also need glass in this large window opening. And while the open air walkway to the bedrooms looks great, it wouldn't be practical year round. So it'd be nice to not have to go outside to reach these rooms. In a similar vein, if you don't want to have to walk outside to get to the kitchen, you could build a connection from the dining room to the kitchen. One viewer even suggested that this could be used as a butler's pantry, and I love that idea. On our next episode of Behind the Scenes, it'll be part 2 of the Munsters' home, where we'll be going upstairs and down to Grandpa's dungeon. After that, the next episode I'll be doing is Hogwarts. I can't wait. We'll start off at platform 9 3/4 and barrel our way through to the train station, where we'll board the Hogwarts Express. We'll also tour the Great Hall and then make our way from there to the Gryffindor Commons room. We will be exploring much more than that of Hogwarts Castle in upcoming episodes. If you don't want to miss any of the TV and movie homes as I finish them, make sure you subscribe below. But as for today, that's a wrap. See you next time on Behind the Scenes.